Welcome back. It's the FireZone show. Ravens coming off of a week five
Week
victory.
Week 4. Yes.
Week 4. You just said it was going to be that
Here
show.
we go.
You just said it was going to be that show. But you were probably thinking more about yourself. You probably weren't talking about me. But there you go. Week 4 victory. Thank you for the correction. Against the Broncos. Not a nail biter this time. So, a little bit more of a comfortable win there in the fourth quarter. So, for all of us with bad nerves, that was kind of a nice change of pace so far this season. But before we look back at that and then, preview the Monday night game against the Colts, joined as always by the man, the myth, the legend, Dennard Melton. How you doing, man?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Well, I thought I was doing pretty good, but I didn't know which week we were in. So, but other than that, I am doing good.
You could have told me it was November. I'd be like,
It goes so fast. It's hard to believe. Like the off season, you're looking forward to real football. There's all the other stuff going on, and then camp hits and the preseason this year. Now preseason games were back. And then you're into the regular season, and we're already getting ready to be in week 5. I mean, it's crazy how fast it's been going.
And teams' identities are showing up.
Yeah, they are. They certainly are. So speaking of identities, we can maybe jump off there with a look back at this Broncos game, and it was kind of one of those, traditional Ravens identity kind of games in terms of the defense. I was looking, obviously we watched the game, but I like to look back at the game book, just at like some of the numbers, because sometimes you don't realize, or at least I don't realize certain things, like either how much it happened or how little it happened until I look back at those numbers. So the Broncos had 12 possessions in that game. They punted on 10 of them. They had 1 touchdown and then an interception on the other one. So, I mean, speaking of an identity, and we know a lot of the Ravens' identity historically has been wrapped up in defense. They were back at it in that game. And I know people may say, well, Bridgewater, got knocked out, but even while he was in there, yeah, he had the 1 touchdown drive. But I want to say they had 3 punts or so even when he was in there. So
I mean, he was 7 of 16 in the first half. I mean,
yeah. So
and 5 of those I think were on that drive.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he was in there setting the world on fire. Obviously, getting the backup, getting Drew Lock in there, certainly was a good thing for the Ravens defense. But yeah, Teddy wasn't necessarily setting the world on fire either. But before we do our kind of normal thing, jumping through the positions, just overall, high level, what do you think about the game from a defensive perspective?
I thought it was a very solid game plan. I thought they went into it with the idea of imparting their will on Denver. And I think the first play of the game, even though it was a completion for, what was it, like 10, 12 yards, what it might be, it's, as a defensive coordinator, if you don't really respect the team that you're playing, you do that. Because typically, if you watch a lot of games, it's a feeling out process in that first drive. It's, you're kind of trying to see what the team's trying to do to you, see what they're doing to your base stuff, all that type of stuff. The Ravens understood everything that Denver was trying to do before Denver was trying to do it. So it was, game plan was pressure, false pressure, as much disguise and chaos they could create. And I felt like they did a very good job of doing that and, taking the rhythm out of that game for Denver.
The game where, Wink was let out of the room. Didn't have to lock him away in this game.
They kept 20%. They told him he could have some fun, go off there and blow off some steam, but we don't need you to get rowdy yet. Now that one clip that you posted, he was wrong to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't see that very often.
That's why I shared that one, because I was like, see, this is somebody who's just like, hey, you know what? Y'all can't do nothing about this, right?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna throw this at you. You can't.
I just want to put this on tape. Like, and you guys are gonna allow me to do this.
I'm gonna,
because how many throws did Denver honestly throw down the middle of the field?
Yeah, I'm gonna bail my inside linebacker, my backup inside linebacker, 30 yards.
Yeah, to the post. And your safeties are nowhere in sight. They're dropping down looking for any curls, hooks. Like they had no respect for anything deep unless it was a back shoulder throw. That was it. And most times or not, they had Chuck Clark over the top, or they had Stevens over the top, because they knew where the ball was going. Yeah. So the fact that they scored a touchdown is because of the bad tackling.
Yeah.
That's it. And once they decided that's not going to happen anymore, that's every defensive coordinator's dream in a game. You have the offense can literally just do whatever they want because you have so much control of the game that you're just playing. I can do this, I can do that, because nothing on that team threatened me.
Yeah, that one drive, that touchdown drive, I want to say they had that one long run by Javonte Williams, that 31-yarder, but that was, like you said, that was tackling. Couple missed tackles.
It wasn't even missed tackles. It was assuming someone was making the tackle. That's the worst of the bunch.
Yeah, certainly once he got down the field. And even he said after the game, because they asked him, like the Denver media asked him about that run, and he was like, well, Humphrey, he didn't say Humphrey, said 44. He's like, he was trying to get the ball out. He wasn't really trying to tackle me. It was like, because they were like, how are you able to drag him for that long? He's like, I wouldn't really say I was dragging him. He was like, he wasn't really trying to tackle me. He was trying to punch the ball out. And so,
the next 10 yards, he was sitting there trying to.
Yeah, but that was it, though. I mean, that was kind of the big play on that drive. In the run game, really the big play of the game for them in the run game. I mean, outside of that, I want to say, I think Williams had 48 yards, so 31 of them were on that one carry. And then I think Gordon had like 56 on like 9 carries. So, I mean, they were around, 5.5, 6 yards a carry, but they just didn't get very many because the Ravens were able to get the lead, kind of take control from that standpoint. And then, as the clock started to work against Denver, they really couldn't go to the run game and, had to start throwing it around. So like you said, they pretty much controlled it defensively and did, you said it best, whatever they really wanted to do against the Broncos offense. So real quick, because I know we want to look at that Monday night game. So we'll jump through these positions like we normally do. And I know you got some things you want to speak on. Well, we'll start with the defensive line. I know just for me, Calais Campbell again just continues to be a man up in there. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he was going up against some young guards. I know the Broncos had their 2 starting guards were out, so you had a rookie in there, maybe 2 rookies. I can't remember if Muti was a rookie or a second-year guy, but young guys either way. And Calais was kind of doing this thing. But how do you think the D-line played in the game?
I would say is their most complete, stretch for the season so far. I wouldn't say it's their best. I'd say it's the most complete. They seem to handle their own against the run. They understood the assignments, but the pass rush showed up. The creativity up front with some line stunts that we haven't seen since Suggs, because they have someone who's more athletic than Suggs and just as strong as Suggs. So now the whole line stunts and all those dagger stunts that we saw with Suggs, they're going to start showing up because he's that good. So
5 sacks. 5
Yeah.
sacks in the game. Pretty much from your D line and your outside backers. Tybo got 2. BK had 1. Houston had 1. Owe had 1. So
that's
yeah,
important.
Those guys
That's
all showed
very important because you're not getting sacks from linebackers and secondary. That means the pass rush is working. So all the people out there is like, well, it was against Denver. Doesn't matter. It's a rhythm thing. Everybody's feeling good. Everybody's like, you got one, I got one. That the momentum starts, and then everybody gets a little faster. You get a little bit more. Oh yeah, I got one. Now I want to get one more. I want to get another one. And then that's why they say this stuff happens in bunches, because it does. You may see that stretch coming up.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely touch on that too when we get to the Monday night game against the Colts. So we'll move to the next group, inside linebackers. Seems like recently, well, maybe even going back to the first game, but certainly over the last 2 or 3, people have been kind of getting on Patrick Queen a little bit for the plays that they see him, maybe they feel like he's making a mistake or didn't make a play, but for some reason they seem not to notice any of the plays he actually makes. But anyway, how do you think the linebackers played?
You held a team to 260 yards in their barn, an undefeated team. Yeah, I think they played pretty well. Is there stuff he left on the field? Absolutely. And that stuff happens when you play linebacker. They get paid too. You get fooled. You think something's happening, and 85% of the time you see it on film. Yes, they blocked it this way, but guess what? You're Baltimore, so they're going to block it a little differently. So people need to understand that he came from a defense where he was protected. And this is, I'm so glad someone brought up today about Ray Lewis and Fletcher. London Fletcher. It's the perfect example when people start to think, well, did Ray lose a step? No, Ray didn't lose a step. The defense changed. His responsibilities changed. He now had to take on a blocker as a 3-4 linebacker. That is very hard to do from depth when your guard has a free run at you. I don't care who you are. Every once in a while, that's just going to catch you off guard. He's going to punch you in the right way. He's going to cut you. That's going to happen. And it's an adjustment. And Queen is adjusting to the game. And he's adjusting to, once again, not having played linebacker for only 2 years. I think people need to understand. We're looking at a guy who we think should be polished. He's not going to be polished because he doesn't have the reps yet. But every week, he's getting more consistent. He's not making the splash plays because he's working on consistency. When consistency becomes consistent, big plays start happening because you don't have to try, especially at linebacker. When you're consistently making the right reads, you're consistently filling the hole, you're consistently around the ball, eventually good things happen. And they continue to happen because if you're consistent and you're showing up and you understand your assignments, you're making plays. Players make big plays when they're consistent. When you get an inconsistent linebacker, you get Jamie Collins.
And we see how things went for Jamie.
Yes.
Here recently with the Lions.
That's what you get with an inconsistent guy. Yep. He flashes in the pan. It's like, oh, I'll bring him here and refine him. No, that's not going to happen. What he was there is what he's going to be because he's played linebacker for all of his life. Since probably Pop Warner, he was some type of defensive player. So he's got bad habits. He's got the way he does things. We have Patrick Queen, who has played 2 years of a defense that I have seen guys wash out who have played in this league for years. And we're worried about him missing a play here and there in his second year when he didn't have a preseason or a rookie year. So in essence, this is truly a rookie year where he's getting all the experiences of being the man. He wasn't really the man last year. Now he's becoming that. So we got to be patient, because what I didn't see in Denver was him being too quick, too fast, too trying to read things too much. He was playing. He was playing a little more free. He was understanding what was going on cleaner. So he's going to be fine. He's going to get better every week. Probably after the bye, once he's able to watch what he's done for the first 8 weeks, I guarantee you his level will literally go up 2 steps after the bye week, when he's got time to digest, look what he's done for a week, and self-evaluate.
Yeah, I don't think that you mentioned it. I don't know that people think enough about just, how short a period of time he's actually played linebacker. Because I went back and looked, and because I'd seen some of this stuff and read some of the stuff when he was coming out in the draft, but we're 2 years removed now, going on 2 years. This being the second year. And so I'd kind of forgotten about some of that stuff. He was primarily a running back in high school. He played linebacker until his last season in high school, and they had an injury, and their coach asked him if he could play, because they had a need there. And he said even his high school coach realized at the time, like, hey, it's kind of unfair position to put this kid in, because he's a pretty good running back. He was being recruited as a running back, and now he's like, I'm basically going to take a season away from him, his last season, as a full-time running back. So then, he gets to LSU, and even then, it wasn't until that last season at LSU, and again, he came out a year early. He didn't even start, that last season at LSU to begin the season, right? He kind of had to earn that spot. And then, people who know more than me will say, if you look at Dave Aranda's defense, Dave Aranda was defensive coordinator that year. Yeah, maybe not super, in depth in terms of, in terms of what it adds linebackers. I'm trying to say it in a nice way.
That's what it was.
Yeah. So, and then you come into the NFL and you have the COVID off season where you basically don't have a training camp. Essentially, you don't have a preseason. I mean, last year had to be like a whirlwind to him. Like, you're just out there. You're just out there playing. And, you're trying to learn playbook, everything that goes along with being a rookie. Gets through that year. I thought had a pretty good, had a decent year considering all of that. And then you come back this year, you finally get a full off season, your first one. You got a new position coach. So, there's got to be some adjustment there too. Because, I'm sure Rob Ryan is a bit of a difference.
He shook him up the first week. Let's be real. He had a nice chat with him and said that last 4 weeks of the season, that can't happen again. That's why he put on 15 pounds. So it was an adjustment.
Yeah. Before we leave the linebackers, we talked before we hit record. We mentioned Harrison a little bit, Malik Harrison. Is there anything you wanted to say about him, or you want to move on?
So, first off, he's got to slow down. He's I don't know why he's so sped up right now, and why he's just playing too fast. And that's not always easy to rein in at a linebacker. Like, you can always speed up a linebacker, but it's very hard to pull it back.
Mm.
And he's very good against the run. And we've seen it a lot lately. We saw it a lot against Oakland. We didn't see it very much against KC because we played a lot more zone, which won't really affect him so much in the pass game in terms of like bootlegs and things along that sort. So where he's been getting in troubles when they've been a little either in zone blitzes or in man free, where he's flowing so strong and not understanding what they're doing. So to me, it would not. It's hard to say if they would do it because they've got Bowser, they got Owen, and things along that sort. But I wouldn't be surprised if he starts getting some looks at outside at some point. Now, the question is, who do you put inside? Well, I don't think that person's on the roster.
And to your point, he got some of those looks in the Broncos game. I didn't finish charting every defensive play. I think I'm somewhere in the third quarter, but he got a couple looks lined up out there. I think I saw at least two that I had in my notes. And like I said, I didn't get through the whole game, so there could have been more. But it's something he did a little bit of at Ohio State. And, different defense, but I'm just saying in terms of lining up out there. And to your point, maybe he'll continue to do it more.
Honestly, I feel like he would be better suited in the old McPhee role. Which is you give him 30 snaps, you give him 25, 30 snaps, and you just move him anywhere and everywhere where you need a hammer, you need somebody to blow something up, you need this, that. He just does all the just garbage work that nobody wants to do. I feel like he fits that mold to a T, and I feel like that might be his better role, not so much as a starting, inside linebacker right now. That's just me talking. I feel like DeCosta needs to maybe think about using one of those fourths and see if he can pry a veteran off the team right now. I don't like what's going on when Queen doesn't have someone next to him who can slow him down in the game. I don't. That makes me nervous.
Well, I think a little bit like what's going on the offensive side with the running backs, where they're like, hey, we're still kind of trying to figure out who what each guy can do and kind of, how to best use them. So maybe some of that's going on the defense too. Like they know these guys. These guys aren't new, like the running backs, who are new to the team this year. But you're still kind of trying to figure it out.
Right.
I think you even saw that during the course of last year, where Harrison played a little bit more in the early part of the season, and then down the stretch, maybe a little bit less. Board played a little bit more. Some of that was because they were getting up on those teams those last 3-4 games of the season, and they were in more zone and pass coverage, and they seem to like Board in that a little bit. But it's just like you're filling out what guys do best as the season goes on and kind of finding roles for them. So maybe what you just talked about is something that can happen for Harrison. So before we leave the Broncos game, just touch on the secondary real quick. Our guy, Coach Evans, would be very happy that his boy, Anthony Averett, got that interception at the end of the game. He's big AA fan. And, for me, man, I am too, but I was going to talk just a little bit about Jimmy and Tavon. Man, it's just good having those guys out there. Jimmy having another game, back coming off the injury. Lions game was kind of his first one back, play a little bit more in this game. They're just so versatile. They can they allow you to do like so many different things, all the different things that Tavon can do from a nickel spot, coverage, run support, what he does in pressure packages. Jimmy can play inside corner, outside corner, give you a little safety, match up on bigger body players. it's just nice, man, to have that kind of flexibility in the secondary. What do you think about how the secondary played? They weren't really challenged. You mentioned that earlier.
They weren't really, but that's the thing. If you don't hear about them, it's a good thing. Yeah. There were no issues. There were no busts. They were in position. They were making plays. And when the offense needed a little help in terms of the cheap shots that were going on in the first quarter, the defense, this is why I love this team. The defense saw that and said, okay. And then you saw the Chuck Clark hit. And then you saw the OA hit within 10 seconds of each other. That game was over at that point. That took everything out of Denver. They literally just they understood the assignment and they chose violence over. they chose violence.
Yeah.
So my hats off to the secondary. I thought Stevens played well. I'm not surprised that Elliott's quad is feeling so much better today.
Those are my reps. Those are my reps.
Was not surprised that quad was feeling quite good today. But if Chuck Clark doesn't at least get some votes for Defensive Player of the Year, I'd be mad. I'm going to be mad. I think he's been that good and that vital. He's and his leadership, going back to the Earl Thomas issue, is what has propelled him to where he is now. And Chuck's gotten better as a player, but confidence and leadership and the team backing him and saying, yeah, you right, we ain't dealing with this $15 million no more.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yep.
That is, I don't think people understand how important that is. Like, the team chose peace and harmony over possible championships if you got Earl Thomas right.
Yeah. Because I think we see the opposite happen more often than not, where teams are going to side with the bigger contract, the bigger, name, sometimes not even name. I mean, Earl was legit stud in the league for a long time. So even siding with, the kind of superstar player who maybe isn't quite at the same level anymore, but is, we won't rehash everything, but let's just say taking some liberties.
Yeah.
Taking some liberty.
You choose a very nice word of taking liberty.
But
I don't even think he knew what the playbook was if he looked at it.
Yeah, I think Chuck.
Anyway,
Earl made up his own playbook, man. He's doing his own
I will
thing.
say this: the other part of that is the Shawn Wade thing. You notice they ain't messing around with culture anymore. They ain't. You come in. Oh, nope. Goodbye. They're done. They're not. They're choosing culture over talent, and you're seeing the result of that, which is a team that's probably better than we've seen in a long time in Baltimore.
Yeah, the Earl situation, man, it was a valuable lesson, and I'm not gonna say that established coach who've been around like Harbaugh didn't know that. I'm not saying that, but just like a reminder, like, hey, it almost doesn't matter who the player is. If they're going to act like that, that's not going to work.
Got to go.
It's not going to work for our team. And Chuck is the total opposite to your point about being consistent, being the same person day in and day out, knowing your job, doing your job. That's what Chuck is all about. So that they chose that speaks volumes, and I think it sent a clear message throughout the rest of the team. And we continue to see it. So good for him, man. I'm with you. He definitely deserves more recognition. So let's switch gears and look forward to this Monday night game. Monday night game at the bank. Ravens coming back home after being on the road a couple games.
When's the last time we've had back-to-back night home games in Baltimore? Like,
I don't know.
What?
Somebody smarter than me would have to check. I know it's going to be exciting. Yeah,
that's
I know it's going to be an exciting atmosphere.
It's close enough to Halloween too. Like, no, Baltimore, and they're going to be home for 4 weeks. This place is going to be out of control.
It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy, especially if they get. I should say not get, because they they're 3-1, but if they can continue on a roll, winning these games, and it starts with this Colts game. Looking at this Colts offense, they've got some injury issues. People probably know they're without some of their offensive linemen. One of their best, if not their best, offensive lineman, Quentin Nelson, is out for a while. How was he for the season, or is he like just short term?
I don't know if he's out for the season. I'll check while you
short term. Yeah, I think it was short term IR, but he's not going to be there for the Monday night game. They didn't have their right tackle in the Miami game, Braden Smith. I think he might have a chance to play on Monday night. He didn't practice today, but I think he might have a chance to go. So they're shuffling the deck on the offensive line. Carson Wentz, let me ask you this. Have you ever heard of somebody having 2 sprained ankles? My man sprained both his ankles. He played in that Miami game somehow, and he said his ankles are feeling better. But man, I don't know that I've heard
that's
that.
Tough. More power to him. I mean, I've seen guys hurt both knees, and try to play through that, but that's tough playing on 2 bum ankles. Like, which one do you limp on?
That's what I'm saying. I didn't even think he was going to play in that Dolphins game, but he did. Credit to him for gutting it out and getting out there and playing. But yeah, so they're dealing with a couple injury issues, but it's a team. The Ravens played recently, just played them last year, in their place. That game was kind of a tale of 2 halves. It was a little bit of a slow start for the offense in the first half, and in the second half they came out with some tempo, a quick passing game, up and down the field. Next thing you know, that game's over, right? Game's a wrap. So defensively, going into the game this year, still that Frank Reich offense. Nick Sirianni, who was calling plays for them last year, of course, now he's the Eagles head coach. And I forget who took over at OC this year, but I don't think he's actually calling. Whoever that person is, I don't know that he's actually calling plays. I think Frank Reich's calling them. So they have some familiarity with that offense. Different quarterback. You don't have Phil Rivers, got Carson Wentz in there, but we know they can run the ball a little bit with Jonathan Taylor. Naeem Hines, one of my favorite players, just like kind of third down, Swiss Army kind of back, does a lot of things for them. He didn't practice today, but he spoke to the media, so I'm pretty sure he's going to play. Typically, they don't let you talk.
I think he was talking about the punt incident they had down there. So
saying he doesn't care about his life. He said that's what he says before every punt return. I don't care about my life. I don't care about my life. So, but anyway, defensively, what do you think? You're DC. You got your DC hat on going into this game and in this offense. What do you think about defending this offense?
So, biggest thing coming in this game is stopping the run. You got to. You've got 2 backs who can get hot, can get on a roll and sit there and punish you for 4 to 6 yards or pop, even with a bad offensive line. So you got to show up. You got to be physical up front. They're a little bit like Denver in terms of they like to do a lot of window dressing. I don't think Frank Reich can be as aggressive with his window dressing because of the state of the offensive line. And I don't think their RPO game can be good until Carson Wentz can actually run, whenever that might be. So I feel like that. Yeah, I feel like that. I feel like this game, just like the Denver game, I think Wink may get to use. It may go up to 90% of his blitz package. It may, because we're getting close to Cleveland. I believe that's the first. No, Bengals game. So that last 10% is for the Bengals game. So they'll let him get to 90%, but he'll save some stuff for Joe Burrow and all them in the first division game. So I think they'll heat him up. I think Carson Wentz does not like pressure whatsoever. He really doesn't like pressure in his face. You saw it in Philly where as soon as he sees pressure, his eyes drop. And I have not seen that at all change since he's been in Indianapolis. I've watched a few of their games that he's played in. So as a defensive coordinator, I'm dictating. I am not going to sit back. I'm not going to wait. I'm going to attack at every corner and every speed, and it make it even more exotic when it comes to the fake blitzes with Carson, because I think Carson sees more ghosts than most people. So I think a lot of phantom movement and a lot of crossing in front of his face, you'll see a ton of that. Line stunts, twists, things along that sort. So that's my game plan.
You know, Justin Houston, he talked this week. He didn't make a big deal about it. You know, he's going to standard pro answer, you know, just another game. But you got to think, you know, it means a little. So, I mean, he left there on good terms. He said it wasn't like a negative thing or anything like that. But still, you know, I would expect that he wants to go out there and play well. And man, they got some good looking matchups on the D line. If some of these guys can't go on the Colts offensive line, Eric Fisher at left tackle, Julian Davenport at right tackle. If Braden Smith can't go, I think you'd like, you know, the way your outside guys would match up with those guys. Of course, you know, you got to play the game. I mean, that's just on paper. You got to play the game, but going into it, you would think, hey, we can probably get some things done.
I'd be aware of any. I would expect them to run at least 2 or 3 trick plays, and I would expect heavy screens.
Yeah,
heavy. Like I would suspect at least for every 10 plays that ran, there'll be 5 to 6 different types of screens.
Yeah, if you think back to that game last year, I went back and watched that game. A lot of that. A lot of quick screens outside, whether it was to wide receiver, whether it was to Hines. They split Hines out, throw it to him real quick. A lot of perimeter stuff, even with the runs, tosses, pitches, just trying to get outside, get on the edge. Now, a little bit different deal this year. I mean, they were getting on the edge against Jalen Ferguson and, you know, some different cats last year. OA.
COVID game too, right?
Yeah.
Back end of a COVID?
Yeah, COVID game. So Humphrey didn't play in that game. A couple of guys didn't play in that game. Campbell got hurt third play of that game and was done.
Yep.
The whole game.
I mean, they made the change to stop all that nonsense that the Colts were doing with the screens and everything, and they went zone in the second half.
Yep.
And
everybody
was like, can we do this against the Chiefs? That was the first time we saw it.
Yeah, man, that Chiefs game. What a great win. What a great win that was. But yeah, this Monday night game, it's going to be exciting. I can't wait to see that atmosphere, because a Sunday night game, mentioned, you know, just talking about the Chiefs, that atmosphere was crazy. Just looking at the stadium and, you know, with the whistle and the whole Omar. I mean, it was crazy. It may not be like that, but it's still going to be exciting there for Monday Night Football. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to you guys continuing to join us throughout this season, as we continue to, you know, bring these shows and talk defense. And it's been fun, man. It's hard to believe this is episode 7. I was looking back. I was like, man, going back even to the preseason, because we were doing a couple of preseason episodes. So we're already up to 7. And we still got what, 12, 13 more weeks to go, whatever that is.
Yeah, we'll see if we like each other after the bye week.
Hey, like any team, they're going to be ups and downs. There are going to be times when we don't want to see each other, don't want to talk to each other, but we got a game to play. The shows are our games.
Yep.
We got to show up, do our job.
Got to show out.
That's what we try to do. But hey, if you don't have anything else, I think we can go ahead and wrap this one. And give my standard reminder to everybody to like, subscribe, download, hit us up on Twitter, interact with the show. Just again, I always thank people for listening, because your time is really like the most precious thing you have. I mean, you could be doing anything, right?
Yep.
Literally doing anything or doing nothing. But anytime that you choose to watch and listen to us, I appreciate that. And I know Dennard does too. So thanks everybody. And we'll get at you next time. Peace.